Texas A&M taking on South Carolina, number 10 team in the nation, late fourth. South Carolina up 30-20. How about Lenore Sellers to Joshua Simon, carrying a defender, and then 57 yards later, he's in for the TD. The Gamecocks upset the Aggies in this one, 27 unanswered points, going back to the end of the first half when they got that field goal. And man, it is tough in the SEC. Lenore Sellers was great, both with his arm and also with his legs, 106 rushing yards. Marcel Reed, look, he was great last week, but this time he made some costly mistakes, and the Gamecocks end A&M's quest for an undefeated season in SEC play. CBS Sports HQ's college football postgame is built by the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Time now to welcome in CBS Sports football analyst, two-time Super Bowl champ, Bryant McFadden and B-Mac. You know, this game felt like it was going to go back and forth after South Carolina got off to that 14-0 start. Yep. You see Marcel Reed and this team able to do what they wanted to. And then the second half, they are completely shut out. They laid a goose egg. So what did this South Carolina defense do to neutralize such a potent player?
You know, the same thing they've done the entire season. When you talk about putting relentless pressure on opposing quarterbacks, arguably South Carolina could have one of the best defensive fronts in the SEC. Two bookend defensive ends when you look at in totality the depth they have in the interior as well. They got a bunch of pros on that defensive line, and when you're playing against that type of talent and you're one-dimensional, in which that's what we saw from A&M, no question any quarterback is going to have issues, especially you talk about a player in Reed that is still trying to figure things out, a freshman. You know, it was very, very difficult for him because they became one-dimensional. Losing Le'Veon Moss was a big-time loss because when he is in their game plan, he generates consistent rushing yards. Now, they broke off a long, but outside of that, they didn't really have a lot of success. So that's what we saw from South Carolina, because the thing about South Carolina, they came into this game, Chris, being, 4-3. But if you look at their losses, they were competitive. They just found ways to lose ball games. They finally found a way to win. So that's growth when you look at Coach Beamer and what he is establishing there in Columbia, South Carolina. And
their first win over a ranked opponent since 2022 when they beat Clemson, and now they have a signature win on the season. And we have to talk more about South Carolina's offense, right? Yeah. Time now for the Home Depot Doers Playbook, how doers get more done. You know who got a lot done?
Yes, sir.
Lenore Sellers. This man is built like a tank. The freshman has a lot of confidence, and they didn't just use him, you know, as a passer. They also used him as a rusher because of how big and physical he is. What did they do specifically, B-Mac, to make sure he was going to be a menace to A&M's defense?
You know, they just told Lenore, go out and be a playmaker. We're not going to keep handcuffs on you. We're going to give you the free will to make plays, either with your arm or with your legs. And that's what he did. The thing about Lenore is he has a unique skill set. He's very, very big. He's athletic, and he's slippery when he becomes a runner. He's just been dealing with injuries here or there throughout his time there in Columbia. But tonight, he felt good. He played good, and they needed his best effort for them to do what they did tonight. And guess what? He delivered. The product of Florence, South Carolina, he put forth his best effort. This is his best ball game as a Gamecock on a national stage. You talked about his numbers, 350 yards of total offense in tonight's matchup, 3 total touchdowns. He was the best player by far on the football field.
And he still has so much more room to grow, so you just only can imagine what he's going to look like a few years down the road. But now let's flip the page to Texas A&M, because they have a chance, you know, to make it to the SEC championship game. As you look at their schedule here, Texas, that is going to be a battle for the ages, I feel.
They got to beat Texas at home.
So let me ask you this, B-Mac, straight up. Do you envision them having a path to make it to the SEC championship game from what you saw? Understanding that, okay, they'll probably take care of everybody else, but Texas, that is the big question mark.
That's the big question mark, and you do not want all of your potential SEC championship hopes or playoff hopes on the line with that matchup, because Texas is a very, very talented team. Oh, by the way, before we get into the ins and outs of that matchup, I'm just happy to see A&M playing Texas once again, because that has been a rivalry instilled in college football. But when A&M left the Big 12, we haven't got an opportunity to see them face off. But that's a big time plus that we all will enjoy. But for A&M, this is the bed you made. Now you have to sleep in it, because if you didn't take care of business against a team we all felt like you had a great chance to do so, now you have to take care of the next few opponents. And then, to your point, if you're flawless when you get to Texas, you got to find a way to win that ball game. And just hope for some help, because now when you look at Texas A&M, they came into tonight's matchup controlling their own destiny. They were driving their own car. Now someone got to take them there, because now they don't control their own destiny because of losing to South Carolina. So you got to look out your window and see what's going on in the neighborhood, hope for some help, but you got to win out. So this is the bed they made. They got to sleep in it. Hopefully they got a comfortable mattress.
Yeah, I hope so for their sake as well.